Okay. All right, dear hearts. Man, this has been a crazy, crazy, crazy time. If you've checked out my recent little quick posts, you'll see, or if you're subscribed, you probably got a message. I had a fall a little bit ago, a few weeks back, and landed on my knee, both knees, but one knee took a hard hit, and ended up with having to go in. No surgery, thank God, but lots of pain, and so had to spend a little time getting myself back together in terms of being able to come upstairs and downstairs and get to my studio and be able to move around and do some stuff without it being so painful. So, but now, then when I came back, I got started just a couple of days ago trying to do this little video. I did my examples first and then tried to do a video, and my camera equipment didn't work. Nothing worked. Not my phone, not my overhead camcorder, nothing. So I guess I was just supposed to not do that for a little bit. And so, but here we are. You can see that I got these done initially to show you. And then I did this little character, same design, to try to do the next little part of the video. Didn't work. Then I did this one just yesterday on a little wood slat. It's got a little space down the middle, but that's okay. Probably should have moved him up a little higher so he wasn't cut in half. But at this point, I just didn't care. And but here we are. Now we're ready. And so hopefully I've got this down so well that I can show you how to do this without much difficulty. And it really is a fun little guy, fun and quick and to paint and to do. As I went through each one, I got a little more relaxed about detail. Sorry, my little dog's up here. What to do, and so so some of them have different details, but in the description section, I'm going to have the patterns for this one and this one. This is so straightforward that you shouldn't need a pattern. What I did to these, because these are just like little summer doodads to put about. I've got a little bathroom that has a sort of a fish theme. So I added these little dangles to it so that when they're hanging up, I just thought it would be add to the cuteness. Each one has a different little fish or sea animal, and so that just makes it kind of fun. And you could do any or all of these, like they don't have to be a set for it. You could even do something like that and have two little friends, maybe make one a little different color than the other. You can enlarge it. I'm going to send you a big version and a 3x3 version, so you can do, you can size it up and down yourself as you print it out. Super easy. And then this one, all I've done with this one is I just did a little bit of the sand, which I will show you how to do, across the bottom. Did a little circle with some V's to make it look like a little beach ball. I put my name on these, and I kind of wish I hadn't. I wish I'd done it with a pen, but I will. The silly little V-shaped seagulls, and then a little bit of sky, and life is better at the beach. And so when it's hanging on the wall, it looks a little bit more like a sky and a beach scene than it does laying down. So there's that. My little dog is hanging around my feet. He's probably wondering who I'm talking to, since there's nobody in here but me. But anyway, so let's get on to this before I have another disaster. And hopefully this will be fun, and you'll enjoy it. I now have all these fish things. So see, this one I didn't put my initials on, and I kind of wish I hadn't. This one I did it with a pen, and that's better. The one here that I did with a brush, it's just too big. So, but anyway, I'm not going to worry about it. Small change. Okay. So here we go. This is super simple. You're just going to need some super, super basic paints. I'm going to put those in the list, but you could really take any colors other than you want some basic. You could even take a simple blue, one blue, and dilute it and darken it with black and with white to get this gradation, so you don't have to have this particular one. Alrighty, so I basically took Bahama Blue. The light's really reflecting, isn't it? I got Bahama Blue, and I took some just Cobalt Blue, and I took a smidge of white to make the gradation here. And you are just going to start with the darker blue and then go ahead and add the brighter Bahama Blue, and then right at the very tip add just few little drops of the white, and then you just start with a damp brush and go from the bottom, and as you go up it picks up that other paint and that creates the gradation. And then down here I just took a bit of chocolate brown, it could be any brown, and then I took a little bit of flesh tone. Any one of the flesh tones from light to dark will work just fine. If the flesh tone's a little too dark, add a little white. Okay, basically what you want is just to get, this is under the ocean, so it's going to be a little darker, but you want a little bit of gradation to show you some lightness where the sand is a lighter color, or maybe there's light coming down. Again, we're not getting all, full-blown image painting right now. This is just a little silly fun thing. Then I have a green. This happens to be wasabi, wild wasabi, which I don't even know is available anymore. But there's also, this is citron green, probably is. Or you could just use a plain basic green. And then just, again, add some white. Add perhaps a little bit of tiny bit of blue if you feel like it's not bright enough, a little bit of yellow. Any one of those will change it up a little bit, and that's going to be just for our little leaves. I kept these guys pretty subtle with this wasabi green, and then I put an iridescent wash over it, which I'll show you again. I just kept them more subtle because I didn't want it to be, I wanted this to be my main subject. And you'll see that I have black lines around mine. And I did this in part because these are so small. I didn't want to make it hard for you to see the imagery on your canvas, because sometimes when it's a pencil, it's too light. So I did a pen, and then I didn't care if I went over the edges more or less in different cases. So you can see, like on this one, there's quite a bit more of the darkness, the lines showing in some places, and quite a bit less compared to this one in terms of other places. So when you get this up on the wall, nobody's going to be looking at this with their nose on it. And the black is just going to cause some of this to pop off the back a little bit visually so that people can actually see what's going on. So again, use the thinnest pen you can. I used an 05 for this one because I'm showing it on camera, but you could use a much smaller 0 version, smaller 0 pen, because it doesn't have to be, it definitely, oh, here we go, I'm sorry. I used an 05. That's pretty big in terms of the size. So, like if I draw it there, you can see that's pretty big. Sorry, you probably can't see that. There, that's pretty big. There are smaller lines which will work just fine. And so please, please, please feel free to use whatever size gives you a look that you want. That's another 05. Let me find a smaller one. This is a pretty small one. This is 005. So it's quite a bit smaller. I'll show you here, and then I'll hold it up. And that's actually probably more than sufficient. Okay. When you print out your design, and you're going to go over it with a pencil to transfer the graphite over the tracing paper, you can make your fish go either way. If you just turn this over, and I held it up to my window, but if you have something that's got a light under it, I just held it up to my window and traced around the single one, so I've got it in both places. You could also just flip it in your printer and print it out opposite way. And like I said, I'm going to give you the big version of each one of these so that you can size them up and down to your heart's delight. This one will actually work for different sizes of canvas, and all you have to do is enlarge your greenery. You might even think about, like I've added these little seashell buttons to this. You might think about something like that, or just little images of starfish or other kinds of little things to add interest. Or you could actually, do a smaller version of this guy, maybe coming back here across the front of that, so it's like a little mini school, 2 or 3 of them. You can just fill it up however you want. This one, I probably should have gone ahead and added one more big bubble, but again, I'm just not worrying about it. And I hope that doesn't discourage you. If you want very explicit follow along descriptions of that tell you have to do it this way, then I could do that for you. But I kind of like to leave it up to you to think through and do what works for your situation. I don't know what size object you're going to paint this on. So here is an even smaller, this is smaller than 3x3, and this would be really cute. And they even have some that are magnetic on the back. They have a flat magnet back here, or you could put 2 little magnets here and make it something to hang on the fridge, or the locker, anything like that. So you can have all kinds of fun with it. So I'm going to place this right here, and okay, and then I probably just made some lines up there. No, I didn't. Oh, my little tape is wearing out. Sorry about that. It just, I've used it multiple times, and I don't want to print it again. Okay, let's try this. Alrighty. So I'm putting this down to the bottom so that I get a little edge of this up above that will let me tape it down, both the carbon paper, tracing paper, and the design, without having to worry about it. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to trace over. It does not trace super well onto the canvas, but it will be enough that you'll be able to follow it along. And you can get even, this is a gray, you can get a black, or even white against this kind of background tracing paper that would just be lovely. So you might try that. So here we go. I've done this different ways. I've traced it over with pencil. I've traced it over with an ink pen, that has an actual ball tip. I've traced it over with a stylus. You can trace it over however you want. I like a pen or a pencil because I can see where I've been on the tracing. Excuse me. Where if I use a stylus, I can lose track of what I've done in. But again, this is not a super complex little character, so I hope that this, I am so worried about getting to the end of this and finding that this is too fuzzy for you. I'm looking at it on my iPad, and I'm hoping that that's correct, but we'll just see. Okay, so I'm going to start Okay, so I'm hoping you can see that now. And it will really pop once we get our pen going. And again, I'm going to use the smaller pen. I think you're going to be able to see it okay. If not, then I'll switch. But I think you will be able to. And you see, yes, you can see that. I can see that you can see that. So I'm just going around my pencil lines. And if I want to change the shape of it, I can as I go along. You know, you don't have to follow it maniacally. Now, when I get down here to the bottom, though, I'm going to go on down off this because this is just part of the ocean floor. So our little plant is firmly attached. Okay, so now I'm going to go here. I'm going to spread that out a little bit. Spread that out a little bit. And then this is the one that intersects over behind the fish to help bring the fish forward a little bit in the design. Now I just need to follow that down. And I need to follow this down. I'm going to follow it like right there. And it's just going to go behind that one now. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and circle my bubbles. And now I'm going to trace out the lines of the fish. And just go slow. And you may need to turn it because sometimes I find I can pull towards me easier than I can draw away from myself. So this gets me a little more control. This little guy is kind of an egg shape. He's not a perfect circle. Okay, there we go. Just feel free to turn it around as you need to. Now here, there's going to be 3 little ridges, and he slants down towards the back. His little tail fin has 4 little ridges. Doesn't matter how exact they are to one another. And then a little straight fin that would help him navigate going forward, backwards, sideways quicker. Okay. And then now my eye. Now this is not a fish's eye because they don't have eyelids like this. This is simply to make him look cute. Okay. And I'm going to dot this thing under his eye because I don't really want that to be dark. And I'm going to go ahead and do this line the same way. I'm going to intersect it here because it'll make sense later that I'm going to have so much paint over that you won't really need to see it at all. Okay, and now I'm going to give this a little darkness right here so that his mouth will look like it's poutier, and that will come out as we paint it. All right, so that was pretty simple, straightforward. Now we're just going to paint. And what I'm going to do is I am going to paint my greenery first. So I need to get a little, I need to get a paper towel, and I need to get something to put my paints on. I was so frazzled trying to get everything ready because I had so many problems that I left my little things in the wrong place. You're going to need some water to dip your brush in. I normally use this little palette for watercolors. And so some of this may come up, and you know what? I don't care. Because I like happy accidents. I think it's fun. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start with a little bit of the green. This, in my case, I've got this wasabi, which I like. It's real pale. But I'm also going to, so I'm going to put that right there. And then I'm going to put some of this citron green because I think it'd be fun to have I've done this so many times. I think it'd be fun to have a little bit of spot of this in places, mainly as my highlight maybe. But you don't have to, or you could just use white paint if you wanted to. Okay, I need some white. So I'm going to put that right dab in the middle. I need a tiny, 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 tiny little smidge of black for the eye. And I do mean tiny. Oop, I don't want that to happen. Get that out of the way. I am going to put it right there in with my white because I don't want to take up extra space. And I literally just need so tiny. I might use it for a little shading. And then I'm going to need... I've got my white. I'm going to need, in a bit, for the fish itself, I'm going to need some yellow. I'm using a cadmium yellow because I prefer, if I can, to use the cadmium yellows and reds and oranges, and then they mix so well, so cleanly, if I need to mix them with something, and they don't get so muddy, which I like that a lot. Then I'm going to need this for my fish, primarily. I'm going to put it in its own little spot. Maybe. That's way too much. I have a little bit... I don't know if I'm going to need that. I have a little bit of antique gold. It's not really gold. It's a yellow that I might sprinkle around down in here, but I don't think I need to worry about that too much. Got my yellow. What else do I need? I'm going to need black. I've got my greens. I think I'm set. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put just a smidge of white in my greenery. I'm going to start with that first. Okay, so I'm just going to take a bit of this and I'll wipe it off. I don't want it to get too crazy. This is going to help damp down the blue, which causes other colors to interact and give you unexpected colors. So my brush is a little unhappy with me. It's got some feathering because of how many times I've done this. So I'm gonna go through here and see. I'm not worried about marking out my lines and it being choppy. I just am not worried about it. I'm thinking about the light coming in from the top of the ocean. So I'm just going to put just a little bit at the top of this. Not a lot. I don't want it to be garish, and it's going to get tamped back. But I do, boy, is that really got a bad spot on it. I'm going to try to rub that down. Okay, pick up some more of that paint. Oh yeah, that's better. Okay. Now, these leaves are, seaweed's kind of slimy, odd. So it's just, we don't want it to look watercolorish. We want it to look substantial because we're working with acrylics. Now, this is barely going to get anything. It's just barely going to get a little bit of highlight somewhere. So I'm not gonna force a lot of this into this area. And I don't care if it takes out some of my lines. Okay, so that's that. Okay, The other place I'm going to want to put some white is going to be and the brush sizes I will put in the description also, but this one is a 0, and it's very versatile when you're working with very small things like this. So I'm just going to very carefully put the white of the eye in here. Dab, dab, dab. I'm trying to preserve the lines in this section because I do like the definition. And now I'm going to go around these circles, leaving the black visible in places. And we will do more with this section later. Okay, there's that. Now I'm going to take just a smidge more. Just dab it like that. Just a little thicker. And you'll see why later. It's going to be fine. It's going to work out just fine. Okay, so now we're going to work with our green. And I have also a liner 3. It's long and thin. It's great for getting into small places. I have a very big brush that I used on the background. And we may do some more, like I say, some fixing of this little bit of stuff. And we can do that, and I'll show you how at the end. It's very simple to do, like where it might look like there's a lighter blue up there and cover up some of these little speckles. Okay, so now, though, I want to do my green. I'm going to do it with 2 brushes. I'm going to do it with this brush, and I'm going to do it with this little size 6 flat. Okay, because I want to be able to use the flat on this stuff. Okay, so now, but I need to use this liner to get around areas of the fish well. Okay. So first I'm going to start with this wasabi it's kind of a bluish green. And I'm going to start at the bottom. And you see what I mean? How that background kind of comes through and darkens up, changes the color of what's going on top. That's okay with what we're doing. It is darker down here. Okay. The white is going to help us to keep some of that color more bright, and so will using that really intense green in a minute. Okay, and go a little ways up. Okay, I hope your summer is going well. It is so unbelievably hot here in Texas. It's not the worst. We are not as bad as, of all things, folks out in the Northeast are, who I know are not used to this, and it must just be horrific for especially people who have to work outside. I just can't imagine how hard that must be. I'm so grateful that we don't have to have jobs right now that require we have to work in the elements. My husband likes to be outside doing his gardening and yard work and house maintenance work. And sometimes he can be out there a little too long, but it doesn't take long. Being out in the morning is just about the only way you can do it. Okay, so you can see this goes along pretty quick. Now, let's say that you did want to do this with some people who might have limited mobility of their hands. One of the ways that you could do that very easily to improve this design for that is to not put wiggles in your seaweed. Make them just straight like a big, long, tall grass blade. There's seaweed like that too. And that would cut down on the need for such a small brush. You could do more things totally with something this size. You can also help people out by, you know, those little things that you can put on pencils to keep them from requiring that if you have arthritis that you grip so tight. You can do the same thing with paintbrushes. You can also do that by just taking some masking tape or medical tape, any kind of soft sticky tape, and wrapping where you like to hold your brush with that tape. Even if it comes off, it's easy to fix. So that can be helpful if mobility is an issue. The other thing is, don't do it so small. Use the larger size, give a bigger canvas. That automatically expands everything to be bigger, and you would even use a brush bigger than this. And that makes it a lot easier. And that can be true too for children if you're wanting to do this with grandkids or kids or something just for fun. So you do need that sometimes as well to be able to make a bigger version. Okay, now I'm going to take just a smidge of this green. Boy, it's dry up here. My paints are skinning over really quick. Okay, and I'm just going to hold my brush straight up and pretty high. So that just the tip is grazing along, because this is like a green highlight in a sense over the top of those white pieces to just give this a little more. I'm going to also just go down a little bit because it looks like it's bending, you know. Oop, got the wrong one. Okay, now back here. We're going here. And I'm just dabbing, dabbing, dabbing. Have you ever done paint by number? And, you know, sometimes you can't really stroke it because they've made such tiny little divisions in the work. So you have to just dab, dab, dab with a little crummy brush they give you. It's sort of like that. We're just doing a dab, dab, dab. Now, there won't be any highlight down here because that's all hidden by the fish. There we go. Go down here. And again, this one, the belly of it, this little turn, is going to have a little highlight. But it's not going to be highlighted around the tail because that's going to cast a shadow too. Okay? All right. And now, this little guy, and he's going to be a little fat right there in the middle. And I'm also going to get it right here. Okay. Not under here. But there is reflection off the bottom, off of this sand, depending on where he is in the big scheme of things. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this brightness. And then I'm going to get a little bit right down here. Not the very base, but just a little bit. Because there would be a little bit of shine coming up from the bottom. Again, we're not doing high art here, so we're not going to get over crazy about this. See, so I'm just doing little bits. Just imagine the water sparkling over and where you might see that. Okay, where you might see a little bright spot. You know, this one's pretty much in the dark. Okay, so now, while that is still wet, I'm going to take the tiniest bit of this black. I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to take this wasabi first. I need quite a bit because black is so intense. So it really makes things darker a lot. We don't want it too dark. We want it to be darker, but not crazy darker. Okay, so that's about right. And now we're just going to add some of this darkness along the back sides. I'm going to do it right here. It's still in the green family, but it's not as green. And we're not going to put it all over everywhere. We're just going to put it in a few places to say there is a little bit of shadow here. Just to give your eye something to anticipate. And this one's going to be a little done right there and right there. Okay. This one's going to be darker on the back side. Down here. Here. Okay. Now, one more little spot. One more. It's going to be right back here. Okay. Now this does look too much to me like coloring book stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to take the straight green and I'm not going to take the straight wasabi. I'm going to mix them up together. So wasabi or the other green is just going to tamp it down a little bit. Not a lot. It'll still be okay. Then I'm going to rub a lot of it off. And I'm going to go over these sections where they join up. Just rubbing it down. I don't want to get rid of what I did. I just want to make it a little bit less of a noticeable, jarring line. And plus it adds a little bit more color interest. Okay. And I'm going to smudge this one too, just along that edge. The nice thing about this is if you overdo your shadow, this is a nice way to recover back some of your brightness, is to just go along that edge and brighten it up a little bit. Okay, so that one was not too bad, but okay, and just to break down some of those harsh transitions. Okay, don't overdo this. Don't overthink it. Don't overplan. This is a little silly little fish, and this doesn't require a lot of super detail. Okay. Now, what if you don't like that line right across that? One thing that you can do is to pull that back by using your ink pen again, and not by drawing, but just by adding some little dots. That will just contain that section, and plus it will also give a little interest without being overpowering. Okay. There might be little critters, there might be dirt, who knows what's making that little line like that. But that will pop it back off the background without it being a harsh line. Okay, even here, if you wanted to, you could just barely skip along and repair some of that. Okay. Again, this is just stuff you can do. Don't feel like you have to. don't like working with a pen, or you feel like you're going to mess it up or something like that, then just don't do it. Okay? So now we're ready for the fun part to me, which is the fish. But I think I'm going to let this go for a second and go back to fixing my my blobs that I'm unhappy with at the top. Don't need much of this. And I do want a little bit of white. I think I can use that white. What do you think of that? Don't you think? Okay, I'm going to start with this bigger brush, but I'm only going to use one edge of it as I go. Okay, so I'm going to dip half my brush and half my brush, and then I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to try to get some of that off, and it blends it up a little bit so I don't end up with something overly white at the very top. Okay, so I'm going to just go like this. Just to block it in a little bit. Now, I'm quite happy with that. Now I'm just going to go here. And then I'm just going to go right here to this darker color again, to the solid, just without. Now, the magic touch is to take your finger and just rub those edges in so that you really smooth that out into just a little bit of a surround-like thing. You don't want it to be, see, that's a little sharp right there. So I might stay that. Okay, there we go. Enough. Don't overdo. Just breaking up the surface a little bit. Now we're done with the big brush pretty much. Unless we decide we want to do something down here. And I'm thinking right now, I might like to have a little bit of that flesh. Just a little. Right here. A little bit of that flesh. And I think a little bit of this chocolate brown. That's why it's nice to have. It'll just tamp down things for you without black being the predominant. Okay, so I'm going to take this little guy, getting wet. That just keeps him from taking pure pigment here. I'm going to take a little bit of this on one side. You see that? Yep. A little bit of this on one side. And then I'm going back and forth in the same spot over and over. And then I'm going to come over here and just brush down. I'm going to go here. And I'm going to go here. Now I'm going to take a little bit of this. I'm going to get most of it off. And I'm going to go back over here. I just want to get a little bit more of this lighter color going. It's okay for it to be like valleys. And a little bit here. Okay, and see that thing down at the bottom? I don't want it to be totally black, but I don't want it to be totally white either. I mean, totally flesh toned. I want it to give it a little contrast. See how we're leaving some spots? That's a good thing. That just makes it look a little more like it's going up and down, you know, as you would expect the seabed would do. Okay, so there we go. These little things like that, don't feel like you have to worry about those, that you're getting it right. Just let your eye tell you a little bit about what would sand be doing. And don't overbrush everything. That's the hardest thing, I think, to learn, especially with acrylics, is don't just keep brushing until it all becomes one color again. Dabs with smaller brushes will leave highlights almost on their own. And with water, you can tamp down things. Like I can just take some stuff off if it's too much. But if you just keep going over the whole thing over and over and over, pretty soon it's not going to be highlighted or low lighted or anything. It's just going to be overdone. So that's the main carry away I want to do here. Now let's do our fishy. He's so fun to do. So I'm going to start first with the body. Okay, got my brush all cleaned out. I'm dipping it right into the bright orange. And what's going to happen is, because this blue is under here, it's going to give it a greenish cast almost immediately. Don't give big globs, you know what I mean? You can go back over this, but it's hard to get this orange out if you mess up. So just keep it, go first coat. It's okay to cover up that little line. You'll remember where it is, and you'll actually be able to see it for a bit, long enough to fix it whenever you're ready. Okay, and I'm going to go right there. I want to enforce that line, and I'll come back to that later. I hope you're hearing me. I hope I don't have to record over this thing to pick up my voice. That can be a problem. Okay, so now here we go on this side. And I'm going to just start right here. It's okay to leave a little bit of an edge there. I'm going to go back down here. It's so tiny that sometimes it really is hard to do it in a single swipe. So just like I said before, just feel free to dab, dab, dab. This is not going to be a project on incredibly inventive brush strokes. We have a project to do, and we're getting her done. Okay, so I like that. I'm going to let that sit for a second. I'm going to load my brush again. I'm going to come back over here where I was working before. Just kind of smooth it out. It's okay that I got that there. I'm going to be covering this up with black, so it will be fine. Okay, I'm going to go on there. Go on here. We're going to go on here. All right, so now we've got this basic orange down. You can see it kind of looks brownish, and that's because of the blue underneath coming through. So one of the ways that we're going to make that not so evident is we're going to mix just the tiniest smidge of yellow into our orange. Okay, I'm going to just go over here. Now, we're going to start out not with it being too much. And take some of that off. And now we're going to go right here. And we will come back and do some highlights and lowlights and all that. Highlights and lowlights. I'm sorry, I'm mumbling. Sorry. Okay, so we're going this little guy and get his little rump all dealt with. We can still see our little line, so we'll use that. I'm not worried about covering this up too much because it's gonna, you need that to be a shadow anyway later on, and so we'll be putting something on there. Okay, so now I'm gonna just let this dry for a second. I'm going to go back over to this little brush, the little tiny brush, itty bitty, and I'm going to add some things to this little bubble. So we've got this bright green, that's going to get reflected on there. So I'm going to take a little bit of the bright green, and I'm just going to run it along the edge, not right on the edge, but just a little right there that's going to do. Same thing here. We're going to get a little bit of it up here and a little bit of it on the side. Okay. And then we're going to actually get some on the back side because it shines through. This is a clear bubble. So I'm going to do a little line of it here, a little line of it here. Okay. Let that go. Okay, this little guy is going to have a little bit of this green. Tiny, tiny, tiny. Right here on this side. Whoop, didn't get any paint. Going to get a little bit on this side. And a little bit on this side. Not much. Okay. And then we're going to get a little bit of this yellow, this orangey, I mean. Because, see, that's going to flicker up. And I'm just going to dab, 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 dab. That. And I'm going to dab, 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 that. Right there. Okay. Now there's a possibility that he would also get some. I'll just put it right here. And right here. I don't think he would get any though. But what they would get is they would get the blue. But I'm going to take the blue and knock it back with some white. Brighten it up so that it's not too blue. And I'm going to, whoop, that wasn't happy with that brush being wet. Get off of there. Don't want it to be too wet. So let's get that down a little bit. Okay, and I'll take some of it off. And I'm just do this. I'm going to do this. We're not done. And this. And now we need white. We need a highlight, a bright white, a real highlight. And it is going to be right here. Right here. Right here. Okay, that's it. Might put a little highlight right there. Not much though. Okay, that's it. Don't look at it too long or you're going to start going, oh, but it doesn't look like a bubble. It will look like a bubble. I promise. And I'm going to get rid of some of that orange. Just a smidgeroo. Okay. All right. If you want to, you can go around the outside edge with your liner brush and get rid of the dark if you want. You don't have to. I'm going to go like this. Alrighty, yeah. Okay, now I'm going to take my black. Make sure I don't have any water in this because this is really important to keep it right where I want it. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go here. And again, you can turn this so that you're not enough paint. Okay. You want it to be fluid, but you don't want it to get gigantic out of the, out of the boundaries of what you're doing. So there we go. No more. And the reason I'm doing this right now is I want it to dry a bit because we'll add our little white highlights in a minute. Now, I'm not happy that this looks a little big. There we go. It's all right. I'm going to dot this. And then I will dot that also with some orange later. Okay. Now I'm going to take I don't have any red. I'm going to take my bright orange, and I'm going to take my let's see. I want to take a little bit of this brown. Too much. That's too much. Too dark. Okay. It's easy for this to get away. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm going to work along the edges of that where it's not so terribly dark. Okay. I'm going to wipe this off. Go back down here. Get just some of this darker orange. And I'm going to follow this just behind that line that was there with this slightly darker color. That's going to give us the start of a shadow, as if they have a kind of a puffy front as opposed to a like their front is a little more solid, maybe like a puffer fish or something. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to get my bright orange and yellow. Boy, that just really dried up in this room. I guess it's just, messed that up. Sorry. More yellow. I think I'm going to put it over here because that's kind of messed up. Okay, more yellow. I'm going to use my bigger brush this time. Okay, get rid of that. I'm going to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We're going to make it a little bit of a lighter, but not too much lighter for this front end. Okay. Now, if you find this brush is too much, too big, then just go back to the other size small brush, because everybody's got a comfort zone with brushes, and really they're just suggestions when we do the sizing. You don't want to necessarily Alrighty, I'm happy with that. I'm leaving a little dark there just as his eye sets into his head. Not much. Doesn't matter if you do that or not. Just have it. Okay, I want a little bit more darkness. I'm going to take my dirty brush. I'm going to go back over here. And I'm going to make this a little darker going out. Okay. And then I'm going to also darken up what I just did, because his little belly is going to be darker here. Not as dark as it is every place else, but it will be darker. Okay? So there's that. And now I'm just going to go in with my straight orange. I'm going to get it going here. Go back in with my straight orange and start feathering in the base coat for his body. That part of his body. Okay. And again, I'm leaving a little bit of that, leaving a little bit of this darkness around here, but not too much. And I am going to go back in here with a bright yellow in this area. Just tamp it back a little bit. And I'm going to highlight right here, because the light would be coming down. Just going to smudge it a little bit. And it would be coming down here. This whole area, and this upper lip, and this part of his eye would be puffier. And right on this side of that darkness, I would make that. Okay? So that's just going to give him some brightness. I'm going to go back into this. I'm going to go here. This is just adding more of the bright orange, but with a smidge of that yellow, just a little bit. As your brush gets dirty and you've got dirty spots, this is a good way to deal with this. I don't want these sides to match, so don't get the same exact paint going. Just keep this knocked back just a little bit. And it's going to be brighter right across the fat part of his belly. Okay? Even right here, it might be a little brighter. At the bottom of his belly, it's going to be darker. Doesn't have to be very big dark space, but it definitely needs to be dark enough to look rounded. Okay, I'm just going to smudge that. Just enough. Okay, you can even go back to this bright orange that you had. Over here, and make it bright again. Make this just a little brighter, but you want to dry brush it. So I'm going to give a little highlight here, right up to that eye. Highlight there, highlight here, because it's going to be a rounded face. Okay, you're going to be highlighted here, because it's a rounded face. And we want it to even be a little brighter right here on this side. Just enough to look rounded. Okay, now as this dries, it's going to dry darker. So let it dry. While that's drying, what we're going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of brown. Tiny, tiny, tiny. I'm going to do it on a wet brush. Get all that up here. Then I'm going to rub it off, because I don't want this to have any flow to it. And then I'm going to just tap this right there. Okay. All right. Dry it off. Pick it up. You don't want this to be very noticeable. Okay. Maybe add a little bit more of this highlight here. I mean, this darker color here. All right. Now, we're going to take this same darker color, just flat out brown, diluted, dry it off, and we're going to smudge it right here along the base. Just smudge it along the base of the tail and along this. And then where these things go in, like their little fins might be, just where they go in, just put this layer of dark down. You'll see why in a second. Okay. Now, walking through this, it seems like, oh my gosh, this is an awful lot of steps for this. But when you've done it once, you can go back and do this. It's like a coloring book. It's super simple. So don't be afraid of this and just jump right in there and color it in. Once you color it in and let it dry, you'll see where you need to go. Add brighter colors in some places, and that will work out just fine. So don't be afraid of this. Don't think that because we're going slow that this is going to be super hard. Now I've cleaned this. Oh, I'm going to use my little tiny brush. Sorry. I'm going to take this little tiny brush, dry it off after I've dipped it and cleaned it off. Dip it in the white, just the tip, just like that. If you don't feel comfortable using this, you could also use a stylus, okay? But I'm going to use just the very tip of this little brush, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and that's it, okay? That just brings his little eye alive. Okay, now we're ready to do the fins. And this is super simple. I'm going to add some white because I want these to be pretty pale. Okay, this is real bright. Now, I don't want quite so much paint. Okay, so now I'm going to I've turned it so that I can brush easier. I'm going to try to leave as much of the line work as I can. And you're going to see that that darker color underneath is going to impact the way this bright yellow looks, and that was the goal. Adding our darkness underneath lets it work with the little fish, but it doesn't require that we go back over it and do anything particularly fancy in terms of shading out their fins. Okay? So what we're going to do is this. We're going to get that in. You mainly just want to make sure you don't have any of the blue showing up. That's really the main thing. But don't worry. See how it looks darker in some places? That's good. That's a good thing. And we're going to make that more pronounced in a second. Okay, now this little guy is going to be much darker overall because he's under the belly. Okay, now we've got that, and we're going to take a bunch more of white, and mix it in so we have an even lighter yellow. Even lighter. Going to rub most of it off. Then we're going to go back over just the brighter spots. Right where the sun comes down. Right there. Right there. Okay, we're going to do right here. And it's going to be real bright. Right there. Okay, then bring it down over here. Real bright at the end. Real bright there. Okay, and right here, we just cover it over. leaving some of those dark little envelope spaces. Okay, I'm going to put this right here and smudge that up. I want to make sure that blue is not coming through so much that it's turning that into a greenish color. Okay, then I'm just going to do a little angle right there. Okay, now I'm going to take that same super bright yellow. I'm going to smudge it out. I am going to put a line very faint right across here. Okay, I'm going to come back with my orange, mix it up. I don't want it to be that bright, and I do want it to have a curve. Right. I'm going to put a tiny bit of this brightness right under the eye. To soften that darkness. And I'm going to put a smidge right there. And a smidge right there. Okay? And maybe just a little bit right there. Just to make him pop out. He might be a little fatter right here with some brighter color. Okay, now you can just keep adjusting that till you get the color you want. I'm going to put a little more of this dry brush just right there. Okay, now I need to get my last little fin done. Okay, here we go. And he could actually be white if you wanted the fin to be white, because you know their fins are so pale. Okay. He's going to have more white at the top here because that's the only little spot really where there's going to be any brightness on his little fin right there. I keep wiping this off. It seems like an awful waste of paint, but it's the easiest way I know to make sure you don't oversaturate your brush while still keeping a good load. Okay, and I'm just going to put it right there. Okay, now you can go back in and draw lines if you wish on it, if that would make you feel more comfortable. You can see here that I drew some dotted lines with that pen, and that's a fine thing to do if that's what you want to do. I found as I did the others, I didn't really care one way or the other that I did it. But one thing that I'm seeing right here is this is going to pop out because we're going to put dots on it. But this is still very dull. And so it needs to have a few more little differences in color compared to what it has right now. So let me just mix up over here a much brighter bit of orange that I can use. I'm going to dry brush it on. I just want to make sure that he really looks popped out. Okay, I like that better. Okay, so now You can put an iridescent on your, this is a mixed media, kind of iridescent green of that you could put over some parts of the seagrass if you like. It would kind of give it a little sparkle. You could do it with glitter if you wanted to. You don't have to do it at all. It's just something fun to try if you want to, and you just it just goes on like paint. But like I say, you could do it with glitter. You could do it with anything. This is a craft painting, so to speak, rather than an art painting. This doesn't look like much, but as it dries, it does give it a little sheen, which just highlights the light part of it. I don't put it on the fish. I just put it on the greenery. So you can put it all the way down. You can put it all over. You can do it not at all. That's just something to play with. Okay, so now comes the last little bit, and I'm going to use my little stylus. You could also use the end of your smallest brush. They're not a whole lot of different, but I'm going to do dots. I do them in dots of 3. Okay. Okay. Then I come back and I do them in dots of 2. And then I do them in dots of 1. Okay, now I'm going to do another set of 2s. If you do them like this with an intentional number, you won't start getting things all grouped together funny. That's fine the way that is. I don't want any more than that. Now I want to do on his belly really light, just a little trail. Okay. And I want to do one last thing, and hopefully I won't smudge it up. I want to reinforce the white up here on his eye. Watch your little spots. Don't be afraid to wait if you feel like you need to for them to dry. Okay, that just takes care of that. You can put a little highlight right there if you wanted, assuming that their lips are a little bit damp. I don't know if fish have damp lips, but you never know. Okay, you could add white spots anywhere you want. But essentially, we're done. This is it. Okay. If you feel like something's not popping, put a lighter color on it. I'm still unhappy with this ridge on his head, so I'm actually going to do it with some white mixed into it. I mean, I'm really going to go up there and get it. I'm going to wipe most of it off because I don't want it everywhere, but I do want more than I've got. I just want it right up here on his brow line. Okay, that's going to pop him out a little more. You could add more. You could bring your sand up if you wanted to, higher. You could add some dots on here. You could add little lines. I'll do some little lines to show you what the white can do. It can give you even more of a highlight in the areas where it would be a highlight. That can bring things to life. You can do it very cartoonish with a dot, like a dot and a dot and a dot. You could combine all those. And you know, the white's just going to bring it forward, so you don't have to be overdo with it, but you can, if it gets too white, just tap it back with your hand. You can do the same thing on his body. You can do a light up here. You can do a light up in the middle, where it might be right. See, that's a little too much. Just a little bit. You can do it here. It might be very bright, depending on where your light source is. Maybe right there, not much. Any darkness here is going to make it look too dark. I can go around though. Further. That makes it pop out a little bit. So I think, kids, I think we've done it. I think we're done. Put a little dabby here, and just right there, and just right there. Okay. I'm so glad to be back. Thank you all so much. It'll take me a little bit to get this edited and get it out. It looks like I've run quite a long time, so I'll knock it back quite a bit so it's not a horrifically long video for y'all. If you are new to the channel, I hope that you will subscribe and like and share. And I just thank you all so much for your patience with all my fun, silly stuff. And I appreciate y'all very, very much and hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.